Hello friends, today we are going to be looking at Elie Wiesel's speech, Keep Memory Alive, and I'm going to pose a critical question, and to answer it, we are going to complete this question exploration guide. This is going to help us break down his speech and find some important details to help us answer that critical question. All right. When working with the students, I'm going to provide the critical question here, and it says, why is Elie Wiesel's speech important to Holocaust victims? Some key terminology I'm going to point out are two terms, Holocaust and victim. And the reason that these are important is because they're going to help us identify some of the parts of the speech that we're going to want to pay attention to, and words maybe we've seen in other places, maybe history, but we really want to be able to define the terms so that we know what we're talking about. So to thoroughly understand, we're going to write the two terms here, Holocaust victim, and then right across we are going to write the definitions of those terms. The next step is answering support questions. So these supporting questions are going to be things that we need to know in order to answer our critical question. So some of those are, what happened to Elie? What is one of his memories? What does it mean when he says keep memory alive? And it's going to ask us about what is the last line of his speech and what does it mean? And that last line is, silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. So once we answer these supporting questions, we're going to be able to answer our critical question. Once we answer these, we're going to move on to the main idea. And this is where we would ask students to use all of this information above, our terms that we've defined and our answers to our supporting questions, and come up with one summarizing statement to answer our critical question. So we will put that right here in number 4. Kids could work in pairs, they could work in groups, and then we would figure out one summarizing sentence to put in there. Next we have how can we use the main idea? And looking at our theme of, let's say, public speaking that we're doing in class, we could compare and contrast other speeches made by other people that we've studied, such as Martin Luther King, Maya Angelou, Sojourner Truth. We could look and say, hey, what's kind of a common theme going on between these speeches, and how are the people that are giving these speeches speaking up for victims or those that are oppressed? So we might brainstorm some ideas right here in number 5. And then last but not least, number 6, here is where we are going to look at, can we use what we learned from this speech in something that's relevant to today? What's the overall idea? How can we put it into real world use? So again, looking at our theme of public speaking, kids could brainstorm different ideas in number 5, and then as a follow-up lesson or something that we could work on tomorrow would be writing our own speech based on an issue that's going on in today's society. Some examples might be looking at LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, bullying in schools, maybe issues within a community where the students live, and maybe we could have students write speeches and really practice using their voice to speak for victims and those that are oppressed. So once all is said and done, this is our completed copy of the question exploration guide. We have our main idea, we have our terminology, we have the definitions of them. Then we have our supporting questions, our answers written directly across to our supporting questions, a summarizing statement that the students came up with, and looking at this, we have to remind people the victims of the Holocaust suffered greatly. We need to stand up for those that are oppressed. Those are 2 ideas. And then we have number 5, looking at how we can compare and contrast between the different speakers that we were discussing, and then looking at our overall idea and putting into a real world use. And that is the completed question exploration guide. Now, reviewing with the students, once we completed that, I would show them again, this question exploration guide is something that we can use across different classes. Maybe in science to answer a critical question. Maybe in history we're trying to figure out why something happened. This can help us break down different ideas and find an answer to that critical question. So here it is, the question exploration guide. It helped us to break down Elie Wiesel's speech and look at the important aspects, look at the meaning of the words, and find out why his speech was important to the victims of the Holocaust. All right.